Alright, welcome back to a new video. I did the political compass video and also did the libertarian video. This is an extension of my economics theory that I'm currently working on. It's kind of a little pet project that I do on this channel. I kind of bounce between doing game reviews, doing actually game ideas, and just doing generic stat videos in general. Today I'm going to do more economics because I watched two recent videos today on deflation, and we're going to get into that in a couple videos down the line, but I just wanted to talk about New Age economics. So this is a theory that I've come up with, which basically just states that there's a continuum of just a line between 2 points of economics, and we're going to be talking about them today. So first, I wanted to introduce what we're going to be talking about in this video, and we're also going to be talking about in the next video. So we're going to be introducing the economic continuum. We're going to look at a stratified versus an egalitarian economic system. We're going to also be talking about some command and free market aspects of an economy. Then we're going to introduce the economic continuum, and using that economic continuum, we will gauge where the current global economy is right now and where it may be heading in the future. In the next video, we're going to be looking at systems of economics and actually talking more about what it means to be a command economy versus a market economy. So let's get into it. So of course, in this video, we're going to be talking about the economic continuum, stratification versus egalitarianism, our current economy, and the future paths for the current system. So looking at the economic continuum right now, it's obviously very blank because I kind of wanted to start off with just a little bit, just like start it off as like baby steps, baby steps. So the continuum right now, as you can see, has stratification on one side and egalitarianism on the other side. If you see the continuum actually goes past egalitarian because there is one economic system which is just completely void of any control. And that's what we're going to be talking about. A stratified economy is more control over the participants of an economy, while egalitarianism is more freedom in an economic system. As you can see, the global economy in 2023, when I started making this theory in 2023, was right here. I've updated it for 2025 because of the new presidential term, so we'll be talking about it more updated as we get to where the global economy will be heading over, since there's been now 2 years between when I started this versus when I finished it. So stratification versus egalitarianism. So first, some definitions. Stratification definition: the condition within a society where social classes are separated, stratified along economic lines. Basically, if you're high class, you're doing better in the economy. If you're lower class, you're doing worse off in the economy. Middle class, lower class, lower class, lower middle class, higher lower class. There's stratification. Business owners, the bourgeoisie, if you want to use Marxist terms, the proletariat, or the working class people. You've got the owner class, working class, and you've got the sub-working class, and then you have the working poor, the working well-off, and then the working owners. Just some classes. Egalitarianism is different. The principle is that all people are equal, independent, and deserve equal rights and opportunities in the economy. Basically, it means that if it's a fully egalitarian economy, basically the workers are treated just the same as business owners. Business owners have little to no control over workers, and workers mostly run the companies. And it's basically an economy that sees no difference between a higher class and lower class worker. So both workers deserve to have equal treatment. So basically, it's like higher class workers get paid more. You may get paid more at your job, but that doesn't determine that you deserve it. That doesn't mean that if someone gets paid lower than you, then they deserve to have a shittier life. Basically, it means that everyone deserves to have a better life and to be treated equally by the economy. So business owners don't get special rights, lower class people don't get less rights. Everyone gets an equal opportunity to be successful. But it's still an economy, so if you aren't successful, then you still have some consequences for being a failure in the economy. So of course, there's some benefits and cons. First, we look at the pros of each system. A stratified economy is more organized as it has more classes and more stratification and more separations between these classes. It is more organized. The business owners can own businesses, and they get to control those businesses. The workers, while not able to control these businesses, can negotiate with business owners to negotiate a better future for themselves. Decisions are made by the higher class, so obviously if you're more successful than in a stratified society, it would seem that if you're more successful in the higher class, then you may be more educated in making decisions. So decisions would be more logical because you'd be in a higher class. And of course, it has more stability in theory. What this basically means is that since it's more stable because class system is more defined and there's more defined hierarchy, then it's more stable in theory because, well, there's more stability when it comes to stratification. More an organized economy and an efficient economy promotes stability. So what about the benefits of egalitarianism? Well, divisions are made by everyone, so everyone has a say. So egalitarianism is more democratic, while stratification is more oligarchic and autonomous. Citizens hold more power and more rights, have more freedom, which comes into the free market principle of stating that stratification basically is kind of along the lines of being a command economy where there's more control from the higher business classes and higher elite classes than people at the bottom, the actual consumers. Egalitarianism is more free market where citizens and buyers hold more power and have more freedom to determine how they consume. Also, the benefits of equal wealth distribution, meaning that egalitarian societies are a little bit more Marxist leaning and more freedom leaning than just, having an unequal distribution of wealth. And of course, society grows over time. The benefits of an egalitarian economy is that it focuses more on people being better and bettering people, while stratification focuses more on the economy being better. So of course, with benefits and pros, there also come cons. So in the cons, the stratification system is less equal when it comes to citizens holding power. They have less power and less rights. It's more of a command economy. Buyers have less freedom. Unequal distribution of wealth, so the richer get richer and the poorer get poorer. Society has limited to no growth. Again, the system is focused more on the economy rather than the people, and citizens are dependent on the controlling force, meaning they, of course, get lesser and more poorer over time. So you'd be thinking, stratification is kind of the evil system. Well, egalitarian also has some cons too. Again, this is not really me. I mean, I think egalitarianism is better, but maybe people think that an organized economy is better, therefore they'd be most likely to argue for this system. But egalitarianism has cons too. Less classification in systems that strain an economy. So basically, these mean that there's less classifications. With workers controlling businesses could fail because workers just, don't want to run the company as efficiently. Similarly, there's less leadership. Since most people make all the decisions, that means that there's less leaders, and therefore there's less of a direction. The economy could fall and people wouldn't know what to do because not really anybody's there to lead them. Also, less economic growth. An egalitarianism economy usually has less economic growth because it's more focused on bettering the lives of people, which means that the economy kind of falls in the secondary priority. And of course, since the citizens are more independent from the controlling government, that also means that they're more or less not going to follow the laws of a controlling government because, well, if they're independent from the government, that means they can declare themselves as sovereign, and that means they may be less likely to, actually depend and actually, follow laws. So they can be like, well, if I controlled into my own destiny and Mark's been a piece of shit to me lately, maybe I just kill Mark. And since I'm a sovereign citizen and control my own destiny, the government can't stop me from doing so. So egalitarianism does promote anarchy in some semblance. So of course, let's look at the economic continuum with some familiar faces. Everyone's kind of heard of these four systems: capitalism, communism, socialism, anarchy. And what are their places on the economic continuum? So as you notice, capitalism is more towards stratification because it is more profit-driven. The class system and hierarchy system was developed more or less in the capitalist economy and expended. Not just higher, medium, middle, or lower class, but also there's higher, lower, medium, lower, and lower, lower. And there's a high, medium, and low for each of the higher, middle, and lower classes. And also there's business words like the business owners versus the working class, and there's the elites versus the poor or impoverished individuals. Then we have communism. Communism is also in the stratification center because it is very structured and hierarchical, similar to capitalism. In fact, that there is more of an oligarchic form of leadership. It is supposed to be society driven, but it is still in stratification because there is a dependence on the government. It's more government dependent than capitalism is, but they're both still higher elite level dependence. The poor depend on the elites to make decisions, and the business owners are independent of the workers. So workers depend on the business owners, but the business owners don't really depend on the workers in capitalism. Similarly, in communism, the people depend on the government, but the government doesn't necessarily depend on the people. So they're kind of the same, and that's why they're in the stratification when it comes to organized independence on a higher power or higher elite status for both economies. Looking at socialism, it's not a surprise that it's considered to be more freedom-based, as it is more focused on society rather than economy, which is the egalitarian principle. And then we have anarchy over here. Anarchy is when there's no laws, and that's why I said that the bar in Continuum does expand beyond egalitarianism, because anarchy is where there's no rules, no laws, and there's no economy, because people were too free, and now there's not really an economy to, make society better. Now there's just a society, and now there's really nothing. There's no success or failure. It's just no laws and just pure chaos. So now let's add a few more labels. So feudalism and Marxism are two kind of economies that aren't really talked about that much. Feudalism is what we had before capitalism. It was way worse than capitalism was. Not only were you dependent on business owners, but those business owners were dependent on a monarchy or a kingship system, which means that not only was there the poor, but there was also the mega poor, and the mega poor depended on the poor, which depended on business owners, which depended on aristocrats, which depended on the nobles, and they depended on the monarchy. So there was literally four classes of higher elite status, and all four of these classes depended on which one was higher of the other one. The business owners depended on aristocrats, nobles, monarchy, and all four of these systems were independent of each other. The monarchy could just decide the nobles were nothing of value and get rid of them. The nobles could think that the aristocrats had no use to them and just get rid of them. And the aristocrats could look at the business owners and say, we don't really need you, we can just get other business owners and get rid of them. And the poor and the peasants of the feudalism system had to depend on everybody, while everyone above them didn't depend on them. So peasants could just get killed, mass killed, slaughtered, and the nobles, aristocrats, business owners, and monarchy did not give a shit. So feudalism was basically just capitalism, but with more evil at the top, and more just slaughtering and killing and pillaging for no reason. Marxism is basically just socialism, but with a more dramatic and more hardline approach to societal benefit. It was less focused on building an economy and more about building society, which is why it's closer to egalitarianism than socialism. I personally think socialism is better than Marxism because Marxism was a little chaotic, didn't really have much in the way of actually figuring out what to do with a society. And that's why if we ever wanted to get towards a utopia, which is more egalitarian than socialist, I think we should just skip Marxism because it is a very primitive way of looking at society, and that's why Marxism usually leads to communism, because Marx was an incredible genius, but he did have some shortcomings, and I don't believe that his economic system was better than any of the others on this list. Well, better than anarchy, I guess. So of course, let's add two more. So kleptocracy is something we'll talk about in just a bit. That just means that instead of profit being the main thing, it's corporations that control it. So instead of there being like elections and stuff, kleptocracy is basically feudalism, but if the aristocrats were the only, and business owners were the ones. So kleptocracy is basically just feudalism, but with less people up top and more just combined into the conglomerate of business owners and the bourgeoisie being the ones in power. So kleptocracy is worse than capitalism, but it's better than feudalism. So it's basically in between. Kleptocracy is basically the compromise of it's still more evil than capitalism, but at least it's not as terrible as feudalism. And then we have euphorism, which is the middle ground between capitalism and socialism. This is the one that I think is the best one. Euphorism is kind of a weird term. It's not really used that much, but euphorism is basically just you take liberal capitalism and combine it with some social Marxism, and you just try and avoid being communist while also trying to avoid being too capitalist, and also trying to avoid being too Marxist. So now that we've gotten this economic continuum down pat, let's talk about some things. So of course, euphorism is the middle ground between capitalism and socialism. As you can see, it's kind of the middle ground between the two. The next one, you can see that socialism is the middle ground between Marxism and communism, as socialism is basically just a combination of taking the good things of Marxism while also not doing the bad things of communism. So now that we've kind of established how the continuum works, let's look at what was going on let's look at some current day economies and try and figure out what they have. Now I know there's a lot of bubbles on here, but don't focus on these bubbles too much. These bubbles are basically being like, okay, what are the economic systems and what do you think the goals are? So in the 1990s, we had neoliberalism, which was basically just more corporate-centered capitalism. So it's leaning towards being a kleptocracy, which is why there's a gold pattern around pre-kleptic here. Pre-kleptic is a system where democracy still exists, but corporations still have, and the bourgeoisie have the most power. So it's more of an oligarchy instead of a full autocracy, which is what kleptocracy is. Because kleptocracy, as we told you before, is just feudalism, but not as bad as feudalism. So this is full authoritarian control, and this is totalitarianism control with corporations and business owners and aristocrats, not monarchies and nobles. So then we have 2008 neoliberalism. We move into the pact system. We're still moving in the direction of kleptocracy, but we're getting the step one. So the pact system is basically moneyed interests or aristocrats and business owners are trying to take over the economy. So they've already taken over the economy, but they haven't taken over the world economy. The economy is still determined by profit, and that means that consumers still have power. So 2008 neoliberalism is in the pact system. Moneyed interests control our economies, and pacts, which are why the pact system is called the pact system, control our governments. They're basically lobbying the governments to do the business of the corporations. So now we move into 2019 neoliberalism, where we get a new path, which is still moving towards a kleptocracy, but we're now moving also towards a unitary executive theory, which basically means that the government has full control. So we're moving both into a kleptocracy, but also more towards a feudalist society. These are both stratified systems. This is still stratification. This is the egalitarian way, and as you can see, there is no process here. And then we move into the current day, 2025. We're moving into a unitary executive. The Trump administration is more focused on government control rather than the people controlling everything. We're still a pact system, but we are moving more towards a pre-kleptic system. You may see this archaic system right here. The next video will talk about why the archaic system, even though it is a stepping stone to a kleptocracy, is still an illogical system, which is why we're going to probably skip this. So right now we're moving into really bad directions of totalitarianism for the unitary executive and the kleptocracy pathway through the pact system. Now you may notice this path over here. Basically, you go to euphorism, then socialism, and then I say, since Marxism is kind of a primitive and kind of just wonky thing, and I don't really think Marxism is the way to go, I would just skip that to classicism, which basically just makes it so that classes go away. So basically there's no higher or lower class people, and then go straight to utopia. This is the pathway we really want to go. Euphorism to socialism, skip Marxism to getting rid of the class system and hierarchies, and moving towards a utopia where everyone's treated equally. I think that's the best system to go. Honestly, I didn't want to make this video over 20 minutes, so I just wanted to cover everything, but we're going towards two really bad paths of kleptocracy, where corporations own everything and control our lives, and totalitarianism, where we're ruled by monarchies and dictators, just like in the feudalist system. So yeah, we're in bad path, but at least we know that there is a good path that is still on the table. Alright, so that's going to be the end of the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like if you like, dislike if you don't, comment down below your thoughts, subscribe if you like it, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a good day. Bless you. Toodaloo.